investigation. So, with this in mind, think critically when you see anything online, no matter who it's been posted by.
I want to come off perhaps sitting on the fence, if I'm permitted. I gather I'll talk about it in a moment as we get into it, but we need perhaps licenses, maybe issue some sort of training or something online to talk about things. But I've jumped into perhaps the accident group, if I may call it that. I prefer to remain independent, really, and I prefer to see everything as I see it and then comment on it. But perhaps I'm back in the accident group, because what I wanted to talk about is the 1 or 2 alleged imposters within this case. Grab that drink. If you are driving, please use appropriate measures to be safe. And welcome to Aldon's Reviews and True Crime. This alleged imposter or imposters. If you're not, then do forgive me, and I do apologise now. If you are, if you are real, I don't know. Mia Hunt, have you appointed somebody to speak for you, or is this someone acting independently? If so, you may not know about what this person is saying and doing. Perhaps you could back it up. Will the real Mia Hunt step forward? And Pippa, so they're claiming to be friends of Lucy, but if now, come on, accident group here, come on, here, yeah? If somebody is making those accusations, shouldn't it all be opened up and investigated by UK police? Because there are lawsuits that could happen, there are slander charges. I'm not saying everyone should be sent to prison, perhaps it could be solved in a live. As I say, I might only talk about this case once or twice, maybe speak about the documentary. I don't really want to carry on the case. There are other cases that I want to talk about. I don't get many viewers anyway, not on the algorithm. I do have another job. I don't make any money. But this is crazy. Is it going to go on and on and on and on? So if the UK police investigate this, these people will be stopped by the authorities. I can't stop them. I can't shoot them. I can't do anything like that. I can't stop them. So it all needs to be opened up and to looked into. If there's anything that was happening in a criminal way, I'm sorry, it might be connected. We don't know. I know that people that are committing certain crimes are saying, oh no, well, I commit crime, but it's not connected. And I've got my own morals. And all the MPs, 2 have been sacked from Labour recently, from their appointed things, 1 abroad. One said to be like little boys, and was connected with a so-called paedophile. I don't know whether he was a paedophile. I don't know how old the people were that he was it Epstein? How old were the people that he was trafficking? I thought paedophilia was below the age of puberty. What am I talking about? I definitely won't hit the algorithm now, will I, with this type of talk? But it has to be said. I am digressing. But if there is criminal activity, everything has to be opened up. If it's connected with Jay's case, etc., if we've got imposters, they need to be rooted out and stopped, don't they? So we're not going to do it online, are we? They carry on whatever they want to do. You can't advocate killing people to stop them online. You'll end up like the shooter in the Charlie Kirk case, which is a whole new different ballgame. All sorts of things are happening there, which leads me to talk about online. And there's talk from, I think it was a nice young lady from the Independent or from the documentary.
The reaction to Jay Slater's disappearance highlights the dangers of untrained individuals undergoing police investigations.
So you and I could make a production. We could pay the money or get sponsorship if you're big. I'm only small fry, but if you've got 50,000 plus subscribers, 200,000 subscribers, etc., 1 million subscribers, 4 million subscribers. I did a bit of comedy work for somebody who had millions of subscribers. You can then get sponsorship and get a film crew. I don't know, we call it Canon cameras or something, who do cameras and microphones. They're throwing, if you want to present it yourself, they're throwing an extra presenter, etc. And you and I we could pay the money. We might be rich, actually. That'd be a fine thing, wouldn't it? I'm still waiting on my lottery win. But we could use the best equipment and provide a great documentary. Maybe have our own little director to bounce off. We could pay the money for that. We could pay the money for a camera crew, etc. Have everything, put it all together, make it look really good. Go to a platform, BBC, Channel 4, And we could go to them and say, we've got this documentary, we've already filmed it, will you put it on your platform, Channel 4? And they'd say yes, but we've made it however we want to post the narrative. It doesn't mean that I'd be an authority or you'd be an authority in making, I don't know, documentaries, because they're all different, aren't they? They all say different things. One documentary says one thing, one documentary goes against one narrative, one goes against the other. It doesn't mean that they must be right. And it's just so comical the way the production team, I'm sorry, Gail, you might be where sometimes people are employed, where I'm employed sometimes, or somebody's employed to speak. I know you were doing this because you were reading a teleprompter, because I could see your eyes. I do the same thing. They drop sometimes, and you can see when you're reading a teleprompter. You might not be involved in the production team. You might be just employed to say what you do. You get paid, and that's it. That's your work done. You might be a student in media studies because you're very young. I'm not ageist. Or you might have been part of the production team. I don't know. But yeah, so you're allowed to speak about it. You're an untrained detective, but you're allowed to speak because you're following what some of the professional stroke unprofessional people spoke about in the inquest and have decided. So because you're on their side, you're allowed to speak on social media and make money from this documentary, or it might be for charity, or you might not be making any money. I find that hard to believe. But other people aren't allowed to talk about it. Or they can talk about it, but they've got to follow the same narrative and directive of what the so-called unprofessionals have said, and we must listen to what police say, because it's all true what police say, and it's all true what all professionals say. Your mechanic who's fixed your car, you notice it's got dirty oil in it because you go under the sump, you pour it out and it's all filthy, so they forgot to do the oil change bit. They did everything else, so they're not fully professional. So they're not professional, certainly not in oil changes or services. But they fixed the coil, but they didn't fix the service. They didn't carry out the service. But they're telling you that they did, and they're professional, so you have to believe them. You can't question it, even though you have to have the service again in an oil change, because your oil is filthy coming out the sump, drip tray, been underneath myself, filthy. Not allowed to do that.
And trivialising serious matters for social media engagement. Jay's mother, Debbie, called these conspiracy theories vile and claimed that they hindered the actual police investigation. So, with this in mind, think critically when you see anything online, no matter who it's been posted by.
And she was saying, untrained Debbie's starting a movement, which is really good, to stop people talking about you and I'm not sure. Is it to stop normal people talking online, or people thinking they're detectives or they are detectives? She's got Peter Blexley, remember? He was trained, so you're saying they don't want untrained people. I'm not sure. Do you mean untrained in media or untrained as detectives? Because there's a wide range of training. There's like training modules. So when you wanted to become a detective, it depends what you specialise in. So we've got Peter Bexley. He was trained in something, in being a detective, a criminal detective. And he spoke about the Jay Slater case, talked about corruption, talked about all the suspicions. He's flipped, and he went into saying it was an accident. Oh no, he said it was an accident first of all, and then he said it was suspicious, and then he went into it being an accident, and then he went into it being suspicious. He's trained, so if he's trained, is he allowed to speak online? Mark Williams Thomas, Debbie appointed Mark Williams Thomas. I'm led to believe, that's what Mark said. The family have appointed him. He is what does he call himself? An online reporter, a media reporter, a criminal media reporter. He's also referred to himself as a private investigator, so I presume you just apply for a license. He's had some training, but I'm not sure which module. So it was said that, I'll speak to you, Mark. Mark, you said I believe you're a family liaison officer for a year, or were you a criminal investigator for a year? The modules of training. So if people take the modules, like a normal person wants to take the modules and speak online, and they pass the modules of training, because some of the training with the police is a separate modules that are a company or an individual not connected to the police. They would be employed to train them in whatever it might be, firearms, tracing, I don't know, forensics. Forensics is a whole different bit of training. Being a detective, it comes with experience, doesn't it? So I'm really baffled. So do people have to join the police force? So they can join like Mark did for a year, and then they're trained so that then they can speak online. But if they're not thinking that I mean, Duncan spoke about this, and if they're not thinking they're an armchair detective or thinking they're a detective, they can talk about it, but people that think they're armchair detectives are not allowed to talk about. I don't know. This has got to be passed through legislation in Parliament. It's going to be very hard to pass, because what do you do? If you look at the Charlie Kirk case, even the Joe Slater case, but look at the Charlie Kirk case, because it's current at the moment. I'm sort of trying to research it as such, but there's a lot of wishy-washy stuff out there. The online community, that was accessed. Somebody hosted that online community, a creator. If the police hadn't accessed that, they wouldn't have caught the people that they're speaking to at the moment. I don't know whether they're giving them a caution or whatever, but they are cheering the fact that Charlie Kirk got shot, and they also knew about the planning beforehand. So they're a big part of the jigsaw puzzle. So if you don't have these online communities talking about it and you ban them, the police would never know what the motive was. Well, they got an idea, but they wouldn't have all the information. They wouldn't have any leads to anybody else who's possibly planning to shoot another, because there isn't only one, shall we call them righty, a church type person, Mormon, a righty who's trying to right the world and having debates in universities. There are other people like this. So they want to identify if there is somebody else. So they go to the online community and they see everything pop up. So it's a source of information for the police. They will go online, they look online. They're also questioning people door to door. So if they're questioning people door to door, these people door to door that know things also go online. So it's very difficult to police. I do agree with it. And as I say, if they said to me, stop, I stopped right away. I did stop in light. It's just my view, out of respect for the family, when they had that inquest, which is another little thing I want to talk about. They're saying professionals, so professionals with training, but again, I don't know what you mean. So professionals held the inquest. They didn't want an investigation, but they held the inquest. So there was only one professional as such as a DCI that presumably is trained in all aspects of detective work, because you're a DCI. But they're not always. It depends what module they've taken, what module they haven't taken. And you've also got somebody, you've also got James Adley. Now, James Adley, he didn't come from a background of taking autopsies anyway, but I won't go into that. I'll just say that he is professional. I would say, I can't judge, but I would presume he's a professional in looking at bodies for an autopsy and deciding. You can't always tell exactly what they passed away of, but if they've been taken, for instance, they've got a substance within inside them, you can tell perhaps that that substance may have killed them. If they've got arsenic within inside them and poisoned, there's a good chance that that arsenic and poison got to the organs and killed them. So he is professional in that sense, but he doesn't cover the modules of being a criminal investigator, but he's in charge of deciding whether it's a criminal investigation, or is the DCI in charge of deciding whether it becomes an investigation. But she's already started the investigations, and a lot was looking at Jay's phone. So that looked to be carried out fine, as far as I know. So she was professional in that manner, but she didn't look into the fact that somebody else may have her phone. Now, I've not got it on me now, but I have another phone that I broke. The glass is smashed, but it still works. Now, I could have dropped that phone. I dropped the phone on the floor. When I'm going to different events or people's houses, I've got all sorts of things in my arms. I've got the phone up here, etc. Or down there. So I'm going to a sport event, I'm carrying a wetsuit or something. I know, all sorts of gear on me, and I'm going in. So I drop the phone, and I don't even know that the phone's gone. So somebody picks up my phone and then starts emailing everybody, trying to get my bank account details, trying to make, they're making all sorts of purchases with the wallet in there, because I don't always keep my phone locked really, because it's easier just to open. Some people don't, old people, they don't tend to, because they forget the PIN number, so they don't keep it locked. So I'm not saying that's what happened or what Jay did or lost his phone or dropped it, but it could have happened, but that wasn't investigated. So I don't know, it's just presumed in a way, isn't it? If somebody sent the text which leads me on to, sorry, Rosie's barking out there. So that leads me on to offer my commiserations. I did see the clips of the documentary. So we're talking about the clips of the documentary when Debbie said that Jay sent his last, or had unsent messages, and one of them was that he wasn't going to make it. And if that's true, and if that's so, and if Jay had that phone and his own phone, then I do send my commiserations in that. And it's an awful thing to happen. But within an investigation, a definite investigation, it would have probably come to light if the witnesses told the truth, which we know that they lied. We just do. We know the photograph was a fake. I could see that straight away. The photograph was a fake. In the back of the car with Jay, he was clean shaven. In the other photograph, which looked like someone else, looked like Tom or Brandon, he had a little growth, a little tash, and his hair was different. And I could tell straight away because the pigmentation around the around the square area where Jay was, it was a totally different colour to where Rocky was, etc. So that wasn't analysed, so that wasn't initially investigated. In order to investigate that, see what's in it, if they'd have seen that was fake, and then they probably would have called for a further investigation, a proper investigation, but they didn't anyway. So that wasn't too professional in my eyes. So did professionals did professionals run that inquest? I'd say they weren't professional at times within inquest 1 and 2. Were professionals present at that inquest? Yeah, professionals. They were professionals. But not in that. In certain instances, they weren't. You can debate that if you want. Put down in the comments what you think and what you feel. But I could just say, yeah, that it was all professional, carried out professionally. I can only comment on what I see, and that's what I see. But I'm up for, if you have to have licenses and apply for a license and some training to talk about things online, I'm all up for that, but it's just so wishy-washy. The Sun reports that you see, in any cases, Sky News, etc., sometimes they use their own in-house reporters, sometimes they don't. So you and I could make a report and so do you want to use that, and some will use it. That's why you see sometimes they're quite I don't like to say young, but I don't want to be ageist, but they're quite raw, and whether they're talking just like you and I would talk, and they talk blah, 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 blah. I can be employed, as I have done before, for certain jobs for a production company. I did those annoying adverts that you probably get on here now. I stopped doing them. I only did a couple. One was, you can do them one was for life insurance. The other one, solar panels I did, and things like that. It's just the things that pop up and it's annoying. So you can be employed, or anyone can be employed. They don't want to see qualifications, but that you can be employed by the Sun newspaper, Sky News, the professionals, to put a report in. Now they're saying that because those people aren't trained as such, or they're not allowed to talk about something online. So you'll get online true crime, you'll only get Channel 4, BBC, those type of news channels. Is GB News included, or are they too right-wing? Because they talk about something with a right-wing view on it. Within crime, you get right and left-wing true crime. They also criticised cases. Nicola Bulley case, they criticised the Jay Slater case, now Nicola Bulley case. So we're saying they mentioned that in the documentary or the clip, nobody should talk about the Nicola Bulley case online unless they're trained. Unless they're trained, is it detective or private detective? Is that right? Confusing. So nobody should talk about that. So the body was found by an online clairvoyant, said to be, or he helped in the investigation. He went straight there. It's on. If you have a look at my videos, I've covered that case. I spoke about that case and gave my view on what I saw. So if you didn't have anyone talking about that case online, the body might not have been found. You might not have discovered things. There have been cases where so-called online people, should we call them detectives, have solved a case or helped solve a case. That's an outlet for police to look at. So don't they want that anymore? You've seen in the Jay Slater case, the people involved went and did hard work to help look for Jay Slater. Even Chris Tenerife said, and he changed his story because he said the only way the phone could have got where it was or landed or where the ping was it must have been thrown into the bush. Anyway, the point I'm getting at, they did that and they were talking about it online. So if you're saying nobody can talk about something online, how are you going to get information through? And also the witnesses, some of the witnesses involved were also online as well, and they were chipping in. So if you're saying don't talk about things online, how are you going to know? How are you going to hear things from the witnesses that are actually involved? Because that's how they communicate, especially nowadays. I mean, we never had online back in the day, did we? So yeah, it's going to be hard to put through Parliament. There are certain laws, aren't there, for media? I do get confused with them because there are privacy laws, aren't there? You're not allowed to film certain celebs or something, or certain people, but you're allowed to film in public. You're allowed to film into a police station, but there are certain laws covering. I don't know, some legislation came out, but it got through okay. Perhaps they do that, but I don't know. If they put a blanket cover on it, it's going to be difficult. Yeah, true crime. So are they going to cut publications? Because publications in books of true crime are like a media. They're a media channel as such because they're books or audio books. So true crime is one of the biggest sellers. I'm going to be a bit controversial. Sex sells, true crime sells. True crime's, am I right? True crime's just underneath sex in the subject. True crime, sex at the top. Pornographic material is at the top, apparently. True crime's quite well up there. Are they going to take that away then? So no books, no magazines, no publications, no online. I'm confused about the training bit, untrained people. So you take away Peter Blexley. He spoke about it online, but he was trained. So he's allowed, he said the same sort of things and flipped. Well, he brainstormed and spoke about it. Mark Williams-Thomas had some training, but we're not sure what training. Trained. But you're not allowed to have that training. So your normal person want to be talk about something online. You're not allowed to have that same training in modules as a civilian. You're going to have to join the police force for a year, or it might be 3 years. Or I don't know. What are you going to set it as? I don't know. Or you're going to say none of the media channels, all apart from the media channels, or they have to be licensed, or a normal person has to get a license, pay monthly maybe, to be governed. I don't know. It's a whole minefield, isn't it, really? But I do understand what the point is. That's why I stopped when the inquest decided what it did. It did contain some unprofessionality within that inquest, but it did have some professionals who do act professionally in some things, but not others. Yeah, so it is very, very confusing. I haven't even spoke about what I want to speak about, but I wanted to get into one video because I didn't want to go on making videos after videos and be one of the whoever foul play people all the time talking about things. If this was all kicked up in a proper police investigation, then we wouldn't be talking about it. Everybody would be pinpointed for what they did, what they didn't do, what their role was. The witnesses spoke the truth. We know the witnesses contradicted each other. We've never heard from Brandon. We've never heard from his brother. He might have something to say. He might not have even been connected. Rocky's disappeared. He was supposed to appear. We don't know whether it has something to do with the J. Slater case. He was supposed to appear at a police station twice, and he didn't. It might have been something else. I don't know. It's very hidden, very crazy. Yeah, but I'd be obeying this act of, if it went through Parliament, I'd be obeying the act of Parliament, but I would need some direction, as other people would need as well. It would be ongoing true crime cases. Would that include podcasts? Because podcasts, you see all the podcast people, can't name the guys who speak to ex-criminals, etc. Would that all be stopped? Or would they speak to current criminals? Would that be stopped? Not just America. America's huge for talking about true crime. You see it all the time, don't you, sir? And Britain is. But there are all the other countries as well. All the countries have talk about true crime and they give their view or whatever else. Yeah, what the family of the shooter of Charlie Kirk must be going through now, because online have discovered that the weapon wasn't the weapon that shot Charlie Kirk, and there may have been another weapon involved. But they stuck to their story, but they listened online, and somebody online, a few good ex-snipers, etc., pointed a few things out, and they went, yeah, you're correct, this weapon wasn't used. Allegedly. It might have been, I don't know. That's the talk at the moment. It might have been somebody from the crowd because there wasn't an exit wound of the bullet. It might have been someone else on another building. It's talked about online. The FBI picked it up because it was talked about online. Otherwise, they would just prosecute somebody who had the intent. So they did something wrong because they had the intent to shoot and kill Charlie Kirk, but they may not have done it if they hadn't. If they hadn't have looked online to the online chat groups, the creators that create the online chat and talk about it, they wouldn't have found the other people that may commit further crime. So they're pulling them in to see how extreme they are, and hopefully it's about avoidance. So the main thing is, I'll tie this one up. I might have to speak about other things in another video, but I don't intend to bang on about this case all the time. Don't want to upset Debbie. She's been through enough anyway, what she believes. The irony of it is apparently the family appointed Mark Williams Thomas, who then flipped, and then he's just like us. He flipped. He talked about it being criminal activity and there was drugs involved, and he still says that Ahab was involved in the drug trafficking, the drug trade, etc., and that he still is. He still speaks about that. Also, they mentioned about don't make a profit off somebody's death, and they had the GoFundMe that wasn't accounted for. They're making money off the documentary or whatever else. I don't know. But all we can learn from this is to stop this sort of thing happening again. I can't control the investigation side of things, or messing up the crime scene like they did in the Nicola Bulley case, and they did because that was in the police report. They messed up the crime scene straight away. So surely we've got to talk about this to stop these sort of bungles, these things happening in the future. And the so-called corruptness that people like Peter Blexley spoke about, the criminality in the Spanish Guardia, he said was rife. He's a trained person, so he's allowed to speak about it. Surely that's got to be spoke about online, and then it's realised. So what can we learn about and take away? So if people speak online, they have to have professionality, perhaps professionality in the things that they say, talking to each other. So if someone has a different view, a different opinion, have to be respectful in some ways, in my opinion. So certain things might be professional, perhaps simple things like not swearing, to more difficult things like perhaps having some legal type training, so you don't say things that you shouldn't, because we all do say things that we shouldn't really say, and we should always add the word alleged when we're talking about what we think about things, etc. The main thing is about preservation, our own selves and others around us. So we've got to preserve ourselves, keep healthy, try to keep happy, which is the aim of life, really, isn't it? And when you do lay your head down tonight, whatever I've said, or whatever anybody has said about true crime, and if you are involved or a family member is involved in true crime in any way, or has been targeted, or perhaps has had an accident or been murdered, please lay your head down and try not to have any nasty dreams. Thank you.